Unfortunately, when it comes to I Don't Expect Anyone to Believe Me, it's a bit of a sluggish film that tries to compensate by giving you violence and sexual situations, but unless you can get hooked by the leads and their individual stories and what happens to them, it might be hard to watch for 2 hours. So to summarize the film, it's about a week before Juan Paulo and Valentina are supposed to go off to Barcelona for school. Specifically, Valentina is going to get her master's degree, and Juan Paulo's getting his doctorate, but not in the medical field, something in literature. Specifically, humor and what can be considered funny, what can't be considered funny, but either way, they're supposed to be going off to college from Mexico. They're very excited, they're young, they're in love. It's a beautiful thing. That is until Juan Paulo gets dragged into his cousin's BS, which includes some type of mob. And from that point on, Juan Paulo becomes one of the mobsters, whose title is just the lawyer, and he finds himself having to do his bidding. His bidding, which challenges his relationship with Valentina, whether or not he's going to do illegal things, and pretty much the movie's just watching Juan Paulo go for this downward spiral and question, can he get out of this whirlpool, or is pretty much this movie going to end with him, even potentially Valentina, dead? As a highlight for me, I do kind of feel that there was an interesting story going on here. I mean, I put it to you this way. When it comes to Valentina, there were definitely multiple moments where you see, especially as her relationship with Juan Paulo was going downhill, where she could have had these different relationships and interactions which could have brought something to this film. And I would even say if this was a miniseries, she would have probably been able to be expanded more in a way that could have made her an asset. For as she starts talking to one of these homeless people, she attracts the attention of somebody in her field who could have been somebody she could have potentially started a relationship with or just networked and really started to move forward with. There's a lot of ways that this film could have done more, and it definitely is enough to get you hooked. And I would even say when it comes to Juan Paulo, because he has this underdog vibe, because you definitely can recognize that the lawyer is somebody who he can't easily overcome, there is this hope and wish that maybe he'll figure out a way to trick the lawyer, maybe get someone to betray him so he can get out of the situation, and so that he doesn't have to live his life fearing that between Valentina, his parents, or others, they may get hurt in the process. But you wish for so much, you hope for so much, and then when you get these little glimpses, you get excited. And honestly, there just comes a point where you're just watching to see whether the best scenario could happen or the worst case scenario is going to happen. Because after some point, there's no middle. There's just a divide where either maybe Juan Paulo and Valentina may get to be together, or else if they are together, they're going to be together in an unmarked grave somewhere. With that said, the problem most may have for this movie is that it's 2 hours, and honestly, there's not really a push to let you know how this could end. Like, for example, the lawyer talks about this project that he's working on, and we could only assume that the project is to manipulate this politician in Spain. But as for why the specific politician, what does the lawyer want, what does the lawyer's organization and the people who seem to be over him want, that's not really gone into. And even when it comes to Juan Pablo and Valentina, you know that their main goal is to survive, but honestly, they just, because they get so wrapped up in the situation, which doesn't really have an end goal or end game that you can foresee, if you do not get hooked into whether they live or die, like this is some kind of horror movie, watching them really seem like they're just pawns in the game and they have a very slim chance of surviving, never mind overcoming what the lawyer has planned, it can take away your interest, especially since honestly there are times where it feels like it throws in sexual content or violence just to keep you awake, maybe to stimulate a little bit, but when it comes to the story, there's just not that certain oomph that really makes you want to commit to this without bells, whistles, bare breasts or people having sex on the screen, or on occasion people getting shot. Overall, I Don't Expect Anyone to Believe Me seems meant to be divisive, rather. You can't cut or add much without changing the film from what it's supposed to be. So it ultimately feels like it's meant to tell a story, be art rather than entertainment consumed by the masses. And honestly, I'm of the opinion that yes, it's a beautiful thing for a movie to be seen, to be challenging to the view and whatnot, but at a certain point you have to recognize entertainment value because movies cost money to make, and when it comes to I Don't Expect Anyone to Believe Me, the entertainment value's not really there unless you're really into the idea of watching two young people have sex, involved in violent situations, and question if they live or die outside of a horror movie genre.